Heather, if you want to start the record.
Yep, we're recording.
Okay, so this meeting is being recorded, and this is the August 18th, 2020 public meeting of the Concord Community Preservation Act Committee. This is a public meeting particularly devoted to presenting the format of the Community Preservation Act for application purposes and to allow applicants to answer questions and to make their interests known to us going forward. I'm John Kratzley, I'm the chair, and I would just, I know Heather Gill, our senior planner, is with us, and then I just ask each of the members to introduce themselves, please.
Tom Kearns, Vice Chair and Select Board appointee.
Nancy Nelson, Historical Commission.
Diane Proctor, Select Board appointee.
Lawrence Flint, Planning Board appointee.
Judy Zombreco, Natural Resources Commission appointee.
And Peter Ward, Select Board appointee.
And the first thing we'd like to do is just show some slides, particularly for those who are visiting with us this afternoon, about the CPC, where our money goes, what the application deadlines are that are coming up. I think Heather has just shared her screen with all of us. And I think, Heather, if you just want to move through the slides, the first slide presents the financial mechanisms by which the CPC monies are created, that indicates by the mechanism to get the money and the independence of this fund from other financial considerations. So that I think the next slide shows some of the monies that have been accumulated through these mechanisms. It's a combination of local fundraising and state fundraising. And you can see the amounts of money that have been available over the years, which does slowly increase in total dollars collected on the property tax surcharge. That's the local contribution. The state contribution is calculated in a different way. And maybe the next slide will show some of the projects that we have spent, our CPC has voted and town meeting has voted to spend money on in the housing projects. Now, Heather, I'm unclear if these percentages are over the years or just this coming year.
Over the years total.
Over the years, 22% for community housing, and there's at least 4 projects we spent money on. Historic preservation, there are 4 projects there that we've spent 35% of our funding on. That's followed open space, that's our 3rd big category. And there's some select projects we've spent money on at about 17% of our funding. And recreation represents about 24% of our funding. And these are various, I think, well-recognized town recreation locations, I think, that many of us and much of the town uses. The state match decreases, goes up and down. It's based on an, oh, I'm on the Zoom call.
Oh, sorry.
Everybody. And the state match goes up and down. It's an assessment at the Registry of Deeds. We do expect the statute change so that the amount at the Registry of Deeds will increase next year. So 2021 should be a bigger number. That may result, we don't know yet till it gets allocated among so many different cities and towns that use the CPC or the CPA. So we won't know exactly what the total number of dollars we have to spend next year will be. This is the interview and review process. So we have the public information meeting. I think that probably is the 18th, actually. Is there another one on the 28th?
No, it should say the 18th.
18th. And then on the 15th of September, we'll be doing another information meeting. And because town meeting is delayed, as everyone knows, until September 13th, our application deadline is after town meeting so that applicants can have a better sense of what the town has voted to do and what they might want to do next with a CPC application. We'll do our site visits October 17th, our interviews on 3 Tuesdays in October, our public hearing in December, and our final vote to make a recommendation for the town meeting of 2021 on December 15th. And that all of this information is on the website of the Community Preservation Committee. So I think it would be of interest to us to know who might be with us this evening, who has questions, has a particular project they may be thinking about applying for next year. And I know, Kathleen, you mentioned that you're in that situation. And as far as we can tell, that is the only non-member and non-FinCom member that has joined us this afternoon. So Kathleen, please, we'd be interested to know what you folks are thinking of. We know that you have a grant that's in Article 44 for this coming year, going in front of town meeting on September 13th. But if you're thinking of coming back another time, it would be good to hear. Folks, please. Kathleen?
Yes, yeah. I'm trying to put my, I apologize, I'm trying to put my camera on, but since I turned it off, somehow I can't get it back on. But can you hear me now? I think I've unmuted myself.
Loud and clear.
Good, okay. Yeah, so we currently have under consideration the CPC grant for fiscal year 20, which is the Buttrick Garden Hardscape. So we're just looking forward to the September 13th town meeting for that. And then the next phase of the project would be the restoration of the ironwork, which is actually a much smaller project. There's not a tremendous amount of ironwork there. There's a lot of wrought ironwork, which tends to need less preservation than, let's say, cast iron, fencing. So I don't have quotes right now for that project, but I do expect it to be a smaller dollar amount than our current grant, which is at $100,000. So that would be phase 2 of the Buttrick Garden Restoration Program. I think, you know, in terms of moving forward with this next fiscal year, I think our only constraint is really the park staff and how much time they have to give to the project. And so they're just not sure if they have time to oversee the wrought iron project in fiscal year 21. And so likely I'll be skipping this year and coming back for fiscal year 22. But I think, you know, I think we're really leaning towards not applying this year, but I just wanted to check in with you all and just sort of see, you know, I think everybody at the park is really curious how COVID is affecting the CPC funding, and, you know, if there would be any benefit to going for fiscal year 21 over 22 if you felt like the funding may decrease over time because of COVID.
I probably have the same answer as is given on almost every question these days, which is no one can predict
Okay.
for certain. We do know that we have the new state formula at the Registry of Deeds, and I don't know, Heather, if there's any information about what home sales have been like that would affect our local real estate assessment.
I've not been told.
Yeah. So it's very, I think it's impossible. I mean, I think that I think it would turn much more on whether you folks are ready than on where the larger number of monies might be one year against another.
Okay.
But I'd be
Yeah.
interested in other board members' thoughts.
Well, I think coupled with that, John, maybe, I don't think we have any sense of the number of applicants we may have this year, with everyone spread very thin, as Kathleen mentioned, with their own staff. You know, I think that's going to be also interesting, just to see who can get themselves organized this fall to apply.
We even have the financial resources for matching funds too. I was thinking the same thing, Tom, that there could be fewer applicants. It's not known yet.
I was interested to hear Ryan, who's in charge of the recreation programs, say last night in the FinCom meeting, I believe, that he hopes to expend money when they have it and not accumulate it the way they have in the past. So that in the Emerson Fields specifically, and for example, to go ahead and start working on a project right now and do some small part of it, rather than holding back and kind of, waiting to accumulate enough money to do something, that's much larger in scope. It was a very interesting discussion. It really emerged when they were talking about the Beatty Center and its funding. But it was a thoughtful discussion, and I thought, given CPC funding and our general reaction to the Emerson Field funding, that it would be interesting for all of us to be aware of that. I would be surprised if they didn't come back then and ask for money for a smaller project, a small, specifically targeted project, which they feel they could manage. But that's speculation on my part. But it is a change in management approach.
Kathleen, I would suggest, if you're available, to join us again on September 15th, when we'll see how many other potential community applicants step forward, and whether by then we might have a better sense of the town applications.
That sounds great. I'll definitely join you again in September, and who knows how things may have changed on the park side too at that point.
Right. And one thing we will know on September 15th is whether your current grant was approved at town meeting.
Right, exactly. And I think, the other thing I wanted to ask you, I think my board was concerned that the CPC may not look favorably upon us coming back the year, right after our other grant. And I personally didn't get that sense from the CPC that, multi-year grants were not looked favorably upon. I was just curious, how you feel about that.
Anybody else want to respond?
Well, there's a difference between a multi-year grant and coming back a second year for an additional project. So we're not able to approve, a grant over multiple years, but, we did make a recommendation that'll be under consideration at town meeting based on last year's application. It sounds like this is a different but related project.
Yes, exactly. It's different but related, and I think some of the Friends board members thought that we shouldn't be asking for money 2 years in a row from the CPC, but I didn't get that impression from the CPC myself, but I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, I guess my point of view as an individual board member is that I judge projects based on their merits and how they meet our criteria. And if it's a repeat applicant, I would be looking at, did they successfully execute the previous project, so that we know the funds, that the organization expends the money appropriately and correctly. So that's my personal assessment, but I can't speak for other people on that.
Yeah, I would agree, Judy. I think that was well said.
Yes, I think
One question, Kathleen.
spot on.
I'm sorry, Burton?
Oh, no, I didn't say anything.
I thought I interrupted someone.
No, I just said I thought that Judy's comment was spot on.
Is this ironwork in the same outdoor area as the hardscape work?
Yeah. So the Butcher Gardens are located next to the Northbridge Visitor Center, and the ironwork recedes into the background, so you may not have noticed it if you were looking at all the beautiful flowers that are there and the beautiful scenery. But next time you go, if you look closer, you will notice a series of wrought iron gates and some different decorative work at the garden. As I said, it's not extensive, but it is quite beautiful and historic.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for answering my questions. I appreciate it.
Was anyone else have a question? Yeah. Nancy, you're muted.
You're muted, Nancy.
I got it. I got it. I got it. Good. You didn't hear my phone call. Given that town meeting isn't until September, I think many of the recipients of CPC grants are going to be a little bit delayed in getting their projects off the ground. So I think while in a normal year, I'd be looking more for progress, I'd be very interested this year in looking at some progress and how the projects might be managed, given that maybe everybody's going to be a little behind the 8 ball in this. So I go back to Judy's criteria. You know, does it meet our criteria primarily? That's all.
Anyone else? Well, thank you very much. I don't know that we have any other potential applicants or interested Concord folks to speak with this evening.
Doesn't look like it.
And so, Christine, is there anything that you particularly wanted to add about our process going forward?
No, I'm new to it, John, so I'm really, learning, how it works. So I assume I'll talk to the folks who have observed before to get some background information, but this is my first foray. So the timing is good. It sounds like you're right at the beginning of your process, so that'll be great.
That's exactly where we are. This is the first open conversation with interested applicants for the next round. And is there any other members of the public that wanted to talk about our future process? I don't see anyone else on the Zoom call. So we're going to turn then to the public meeting, which has just a couple agenda items. And Kathleen, you're welcome to stay. We're going to talk about the first item on the agenda is the town meeting update. And I'll review what I know, and anyone else who has town meeting information, please add to my review. Article 44 is our town meeting warrant. It has been placed on the consent calendar by the select board with an affirmative recommendation for passage from both the select board and the FinCom. So it has 2 important endorsements going forward. It can only, I think most of you have read all of this information in the town meeting website. Any one of our 10 proposed grants can be removed from the consent calendar by 10 citizen vote, and then that would open that item for debate. I think we all received this yellow flyer at our house recently, and that indicates that there will be no presentations or screen visuals. Each warrant article has been authorized to submit written material, and with the number of grant applications that we have pending, the moderator allowed us to submit a 4-page summary, which I think all of you have, and if you don't, Heather can make it available. It's a 4-page summary that gives some detail about each of the 10 applications. So it's a little larger than the 1-page document that's been mentioned in various pieces of literature. But that's just because our 10 projects each needs a bit more explanation. Diane?
I wonder, thank you, John. I wonder if we are going to record a presentation from the CPC for citizens to be able to observe, or whether we're just going to let our written words stand as a form of presentation.
Are you aware that we would be permitted?
So
I don't know whether if we're on the consent calendar, we can, but I think having listened to lots of discussions, I'm concerned that as people move down the consent calendar, and what I understand that Carmen is going to do is when she gets to the CPC, she's going to go A, B, C, D, and give opportunity for citizens to comment on any one of those issues. So I guess my concern is that if they decided, meaning the citizens of the town, decided to question any one of those grants, in the absence of any visual presentation on our part, recorded on the town on the town website, it might not allow people an opportunity to hear from us, and we're certainly not going to be able to present anything. I mean, that it's going to be our written report, and that's that. So I just wonder how we approach this. I don't have an answer, but I'm just curious.
So
Well, what
our
I read-
presentation to the FinCom, that meeting is available on the town meeting's website. It's linked there. And then also on the main town meeting webpage is a link to our PowerPoint presentation from that meeting. So people can look through that, which is basically what we would present at town meeting anyways.
I didn't notice, Heather, when I looked for this 2 nights ago, I didn't notice that if you went to the town meeting part of the website, that those connections were easy for people to find. I hope that as the town refines that website in readiness for the town meeting, that those links are made very clear for people who want to observe those kinds of that kind of information. Thank you.
And that's why we originally weren't on the front page of the town meeting website, the link to our PowerPoint. And we requested that our PowerPoint gets added there so that it is highly visible for people to be able to see.
Terrific.
Good.
Well, that addresses the concern that I had. Thank you very much.
The other information that's in this yellow flyer is that questions and comments from the floor will be addressed by article sponsors. And I think, Tom, that's where you and I come in, that if any one of the 10 is simply addressed by question rather than by an amendment, but simply addressed by question rather than by 10 people want to take it off the list, somebody just wants to ask a question. I feel that I and you, if it's something I can't talk about by the disqualification issue, we should be prepared to speak up.
Right. Yeah, agreed.
I don't think at that moment you and I have anything visual to show or would have a method to show anything.
Or wouldn't be permitted.
Yeah, that won't happen. John, I'm a little confused because I believe if no one speaks, unless someone argues they want to take it off the consent calendar, I don't believe a discussion can go forward. I've just been interviewing Carmen about all these details for the league. And my understanding is that unless 10 citizens stand up and say, wait, we want to challenge this or we want more discussion, otherwise I don't think there can be a discussion.
Well, that would make life potentially a little easier for us.
It would.
If we don't have to talk until there's an actual 10 voters.
That's exactly right.
And only that triggers our need to respond.
That's exactly right.
That's
protocol.
well, I may have spoken out of turn when I said that we would just be answering questions. That takes 10 votes to trigger us doing anything.
Interesting.
So that's basically my report about town meeting. There is a deadline. Heather just told me today there's a September 1 deadline to get our 4-page presentation in, but I've been through it. I think Tom's been through it. We did ask some of the town staff to be sure the way we describe their projects, like the Warner's Pond and so on, the town project. We want to be sure the town staff were comfortable with our descriptions. I don't know if they've gotten back to you, Heather, but.
I finally heard back from Kate. She was the only one I was waiting on today.
Okay.
So we're good on that.
All right, good. Then
John, one comment, I thought it was helpful to have town council at the FinCom meeting, that presentation to also help to clarify, some of the answers to questions, and assuming that he would also be.
Yeah, that's an email
present.
I have to send to him in the next couple of days, is just confirming that he'll be at least available to, should there be 10 votes on an issue that his opinion is related to,
Yeah.
that he could assist you and I.
Yeah.
I understand.
It's somewhat related to town meeting, but which is, I assume all of our minutes and correspondence are up to date on the website. Because I know many times when people are looking for additional information on something like the CPC, they will look back at the minutes.
Yep, I upload all of our minutes that are approved. Once they're approved, if they're still in draft form, they're not on the website.
Okay, do we have any meetings that have not been approved
Um,
that would relate to town meeting?
I don't believe so. Let me just-
Okay, I just want to double check on that because that's another source of information for everyone.
You do have a June 16th on the agenda tonight.
Yeah, so we have one set of draft minutes to go
Okay,
over. March 17th doesn't have minutes, but that meeting was canceled.
right.
So that's why there's no minutes there. And then all of our 2019 minutes, except for it looks like September 24th. So let me look into that. That might have been like we canceled the meeting or something. So I'll look into that.
Diane, I saw your hand up again.
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions about town meeting, our 4-page presentation, how we will handle any 10-voter movement to put one of our grants on the floor for discussion? And I asked Heather earlier if we had any amendments, that we'd heard of any amendments, and Heather told me we had not so far heard of any effort to anyone to pre-file with the moderator an amendment.
So
Yes?
I have one just small correction about the review of the draft conditions, project conditions. That's on the first page.
Oh, so I'm sorry, Nancy, we're turning to the minutes then?
Oh, I thought we were discussing them already. Sorry.
No, I had just asked if anyone else had questions about town meeting.
Oh,
yeah,
fine.
John, just one small detail. So we discussed that at least at minimum, you and I would be sitting close together, but not too close.
Yes.
At town meetings. So anyway, just to let people know that we'll be within eye shot, ear shot of each other, or something like that.
Yes, I think maybe I need your cell phone so we can find each other.
I think the FinCom is actually creating a kind of group text that they can text back and forth to each other, which I thought was really a good idea.
Yeah, I think
Great
maybe
idea.
that would be good for us, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Then I'll move on. Project status reports was next on the agenda. I didn't know if Heather had any to share with us.
So everyone has submitted, well, all of the project status reports that I've received are online. Delia did submit 7 today. She did request an extension to today. So she just got them to me and I have uploaded them to the website now. There are a few missing. I emailed the applicants and never heard back about getting their project status reports, so I can email them again. That includes the library, Emerson Field, Concord Integrated Preschool Playground, Ride Out, and that's it. So I can send those emails again. But other than that, all the project status reports are on the website for you to look over. I don't know if everyone's had a chance to look at them yet.
May I ask a question? Are those some of those projects under the Recreation Department, right?
Yes.
Okay, because I think there were some presentations at a select board / FinCom meeting last night about some of those.
Okay.
I mean, they're moving forward. We just haven't.
They just don't respond to my emails.
I know, they don't respond to our emails.
So I think, Heather, we should put this back on the agenda for the 15th
Okay.
of September. So we will have a chance to read them and then get an update as to the missing ones.
Okay.
Tom,
Heather,
you had
I have a question regarding Junction Village. it looks like this is big news that the tax credits have been awarded for Junction Village.
I don't know many details. I'm not kept in the loop on that project other than what the form says.
Yeah, I've been knee deep in it, Peter, because of the League Town Government Committee, and yes, they have been.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
They've been awarded a rather sizable grant, actually, from the state and some additional support. I think that there remain citizens in town who are concerned about the tax, the TIF itself, and they wonder if whether 15 years is sensible or whether it should be down to 10. There will be at least one amendment presented. The meeting last night, as Christine, I think, could support, was a long one. It started at 7, and Christine and I said goodnight to each other at 11:30. So 4.5 hours later, the centerpiece of that discussion really was Article 16, which is, of course, not our concern, but it's Junction Village, although we gave money originally to support that project. Does that help at all, Peter?
Absolutely, yeah. I just know that this was, I think, the application that had been put forward, if I'm not mistaken, 2 or 3 times. So it's just great to hear that this would have come through.
That's exactly right. And it not only has come through, it's come through in a robust way. The state apparently is impressed by Concord's financial contribution. Some citizens in Concord are equally impressed and concerned as such. So all depends on your point of view.
Tom, you had your hand up? No? Okay. Anyone else on our project reviews? We will put it back on the agenda for September 15th, where we can all read the current and see about the folks that have been tardy. All right, that takes us to Nancy, the minutes. You had a comment on the June 16th.
Yeah, let me get back there. 1 minute. Oh, there it is. I think I was saying that it would be important for the CPC to better understand the Secretary of Interior standards for historic preservation, rehabilitation, and whatnot, the different levels of treatment, and that I would be reviewing that for the benefit of the committee and the new projects we're looking at, as opposed to, this sounds like that I was maybe going to do it for the existing historic preservation projects, which I don't think's helpful, right? I just want to clarify, Heather, is that what you meant for future projects?
Right, yeah.
Okay. So for 2021 on. It was just a general thing. There's different levels, and preservation gets used incorrectly a lot.
So do you want me to just add like moving forward or?
Moving forward, something like that. That's all. But I did have a question. This may be out of order, and I'm sorry, John. I just wondered about the Old Manse update, and there was reference to a letter where they were saying that they had other things in mind for using up the $30-some thousand that was left over from the CPC grant. Do we do that? Let applicants who have leftover money use it for other things? And I was just curious what they had in mind.
So sometimes, they haven't sent anything related to that.
You didn't see the letter that they said was attached under separate, or that was coming under separate cover then?
Right, they never sent it.
They didn't send it. Okay. Do we do that though as a matter of policy, or does it go back into the kitty?
Sometimes applicants will come back if they have additional funding. And if this committee agrees that it falls within the umbrella of the original scope of the project,
Okay.
then sometimes the funding is approved for that. Otherwise, funding.
Heather, you're frozen.
I'm frozen.
You're frozen, John.
Heather, I think you're okay. I think John may be frozen.
Does
Yeah,
that
I
make
think so.
sense? That it would have to, the committee would have to approve that it's within the scope of
Got
the original project. Otherwise, the funding wouldn't be approved.
Yeah, got it. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
but
Sorry.
they can't go off unilaterally and
No, not
Suspend it.
unilaterally, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, but off track maybe. Yeah, okay, thank you. Sorry for that.
Anyone else on the minutes, or is there a motion on the June 16th minutes?
I move we accept the minutes for June 16.
Is there a second?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Approved. And the only other issue I wanted to raise, Heather, is it too early to talk about membership for next year? Whether we need new people, are some folks finished, or some folks need to be reappointed by their sponsoring organization?
Yeah, there's so Nancy's term is expiring and Hester's term is expiring. So it would be following town meeting, the Historical Commission and the Housing Authority would need to either reappoint Nancy and Hester or appoint someone new.
Our select board appointments, I think, are all good.
Yes.
And it sounds like sounds like Judy's in good shape, and Burton, if he wishes to continue, he's been very loyal about this with a lot of other responsibility. Is your term still going at the?
Planning, yeah, I believe my term, it runs through 2022, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
They're 5-year
For us.
terms. I discovered after I held up my hand and was sworn in and they handed me the card.
Okay.
Funny.
Does anyone else have new business they'd like to mention? I just did want to be sure we have a working group to go forward in the fall. All right. The motion to adjourn,
So moved.
So moved.
and let me just check
Second.
if there's any other, before we adjourn, any other public comment? Christine, anything from you? You're all set. Okay. All right. So second for the motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, then we're adjourned till September 15th at 7. Is that right?
Yes,
Good
it's
enough.
at 7 right now. Hopefully that won't change.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, folks, enjoy the rest of this
Thank you.
brief
Thank you,
amount of
John.
summer.
Good to see you all.
Thank you. Good to see everyone.
Yeah,
everybody.
if you're
Bye.
vacationing somewhere, enjoy the time.